السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, we apologize for the 5-minute delay. And no, we don't always have a long delay, but we have certain people in our circle that are inefficient and impractical, and so it delays us unnecessarily. So we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abundantly. We ask Allah to exalt the mentioned grand peace and his blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will continue the Al-Arba'een An-Nawawiyyah, and let me share the screen. Right here we have the Hadeeth number 13, Al-Hadeeth Al-Thalith Ashar, عن أبي حمزة أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنه خادم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. رواه البخاري ومسلم. On the authority of Abu Hamza, that's his kunya, that's his nickname, and it is none but Anas ibn Malik, the famous Sahabi, who's also the servant of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that he heard the Prophet he said on the authority of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, none of you shall believe until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Now that is called a rough translation. That's because it is not the accurate translation. And I suppose that some of you will be able to give me a better translation than this one. What do you suppose will be the better translation for this particular hadith? That is what we will be learning together today. And that's what the Shaykh will elaborate on, rahimahullah. قَوْلُ لَا يُؤْمِنُ أَحَدُكُمْ أي لا يتم إيمان أحدنا. فالنفي هنا للكمال والتمام وليس نفيا لأصل الإيمان. None of you shall believe, meaning none of you will have the complete faith. So the negation here is the negation of perfection and completion. It is not the negation of the fundamental aspect of faith. You understand? Meaning what is being negated is you having proper faith. Not that you don't have any faith at all. فَإِنْ قَالَ قَائِلٌ ما دليلكم على هذا التأويل الذي فيه صرف الكلام عن ظاهره? If someone were to say, what is the evidence for this interpretation of yours, which basically diverts the meaning of the speech from its apparentness, and that's a very technical matter, because those of you who have followed the Aqeedah classes know very well that from one of the fundamentals of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is that we refuse to do ta'wil. Generally speaking, we refuse to do ta'wil or misinterpretation, because if you open a door of ta'wil, of giving another meaning, then you will fall into the way of the Asha'ira. The way of the Asha'ira is every time they come across an ayah from the Quran or a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, they give it an interpretation of their own that is not in line with the apparent meaning, and they tell you that's what's intended. So you fall into this dilemma of negating what is clearly in the Quran and the Sunnah, whereas we say, no, أمروها كما جاءت, pass it on as it has come, accept it as per the apparent meaning. نأخذ الكلام على الظاهر, we accept the speech according to the apparentness. So why are we doing something else now? قلنا, the Shaykh said, we say, دليلنا على هذا أن ذلك العمل لا يخرج به الإنسان من الإيمان. Our evidence is that that deed does not take someone outside of faith. ولا يعتبر مرتدا, nor do we presume or consider this person to be an apostate. وإنما هو من باب النصيحة. Rather, this falls under the category of sincere advice. فيكون النفي هنا نفيا لكمال الإيمان. So the negation here is the negation of the perfection of faith. فإن قال قائل ألستم تنكرون على أهل التأويل تأويلهم. If a person say, hey, aren't you the same people that criticize those who give different interpretations? Don't you criticize them for their misinterpretation? فالجواب, the answer is, Shaykh rahimahullah, the Shaykh rahimahullah used to present what could be a problem and address it on his own, therefore closing the door of doubts independently. He will hypothetically mention what a person may say as an objection, and then he will reply to this objection in order to satisfy his students, in order to equip them with the knowledge and with the responses that are needed and required to disseminate this knowledge in line with the way of the Salaf. And that is why Shaykh Muhammad bin Saalih Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah is considered one of the most beloved mashayikh of Salafiyah to the Salafis. The Shaykh rahimahullah has a very dear place in the hearts of the Muslims. Those of them who love the deen of Allah and love the way of the Salaf. Obviously, for the deviant, misguided, wicked Sufis and their likes, they hate the Shaykh. And they hate anybody who does not promote their version and their strand of Islam that they have, inherited from Abdullah ibn Saba and from Dhul Khuwaysira and from, all types of Al-Ghazali and Al-Razi and all types of deviant people that have come across the Ummah. إنما ننكر على أهل التأويل تأويلهم الذي لا دليل عليه. We only criticize the people of interpretation, their misinterpretation that is not substantiated by an evidence. لأنه إذا لم يكن عليه دليل صار تحريفا وليس تأويلا. Because if there isn't an evidence, then it becomes a form of distortion and not an interpretation. It's not merely a misinterpretation or a new interpretation, it's a distortion, تحريف. وأما التأويل الذي دل عليه الدليل فإنه يعتبر من تفسير الكلام. As for the interpretation that has evidence, that has an evidence supporting it, then this is considered a type of interpreting or explaining the text and the speech. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في عبد الله بن عباس رضي الله عنهما. Just like the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said regarding Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with both of them, meaning him and his father Al-Abbas, اللهم فقهه في الدين وعلمه التأويل. Oh Allah, give him understanding of the religion and teach him interpretation. فإن قال قائل في قول الله تعالى, if a person would say in the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. If you recite the Quran, then seek refuge with Allah from the wicked or from the evil or from the I forgot the term we usually use for rajim. Accursed shaitan. There you go. The accursed devil. المراد به إذا أردت قراءة القرآن فهل يعتبر هذا تأويلا مذموما أو تأويلا صحيحا? So a person would say what is intended by this, meaning if you want to read the Quran, if you are about to read the Quran, then you seek refuge with Allah from the accursed shaitan. Is this considered a valid, a blameworthy interpretation or a proper interpretation? والجواب هذا تأويل صحيح. We say this is a valid interpretation. لأنه دل عليه الدليل من فعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because that has been supported with evidence from the action of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقد كان صلى الله عليه وسلم يتعوذ عند القراءة لا في آخر القراءة. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to seek refuge at the time of recitation, not at the end of recitation. So the evidence then, if the ayah could be understood that once you're done reciting the Quran, seek refuge with Allah. We say no, that is not the right interpretation. The right interpretation is if you are about to read the Quran. If someone were to say, hey, that's not as per the apparent meaning of the text, You are misinterpreting the ayah. We say, no, that is not considered misinterpretation because we have an evidence from the sunnah that supports this valid interpretation. And that is the difference between us and the Ash'ari, that they don't have anything from the sunnah or from the Quran that supports their misinterpretation. They have philosophical ideologies, philosophical principles from Aristotle and Plato upon which they are misinterpreting the ayat. They're using what they consider to be logic and reasoning. They're not using another ayah from the Quran or another hadith of Prophet ﷺ. You see the difference between the two. وَإِذَا قَالَ قَائِلٌ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ إن المراد إذا أردتم القيام إليها فهل يعتبر هذا تأويلا مذموما أو صحيحا? If a person were to say regarding the statement of Allah, oh, you have believed, if you stand for salah, then wash your faces. That the intention is if you intend on praying, not once you've stood up for the prayer, then wash your face. If you want to go pray, then wash your face. Is this a proper interpretation or blameworthy? The Shaykh said, it is a proper interpretation. Why? Because of the other evidence. The other evidence that teaches that you have to make wudu before you pray. So the ayah couldn't possibly mean once you've stood up for salah, then wash your face. Guys, the apparent meaning of the ayah is once you've stood up for salah, wash your face. You understand? We will say that cannot be the meaning of the ayah. The meaning of the ayah is that if you want to go pray, wash your face, i.e. make wudu. If you do this, the Ash'ari will say, and the Maturidiyya and the Mu'tazila, they will say, hey, you're doing what you don't let us do. When we come across the ayah that says, وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ, the face of your Lord remains. You say that, we accept the apparent meaning. They do an interpretation because they deny that Allah has a face. So they said, you're doing the same thing in this ayah. We said, no, Habibi, no. Because what we're doing here has an evidence that supports it. Whereas you changing the meaning of the face of Allah to another meaning, you have no evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah for it. You have an evidence from Aristotle that, Allah supposedly, Allah doesn't look like His creation, therefore Allah doesn't have a face. While we say Allah doesn't look like His creation, but Allah still has a face. Because Allah said that He has a face. Capish, Capitan? Capish, Capitan? وعليه فلا ننكر التأويل مطلقا. Then accordingly we don't deny the concept of interpretation ultimately. إنما ننكر التأويل الذي لا دليل عليه ونسميه تحريفا. Rather we negate and deny and criticize the interpretation that is not substantiated by an evidence, and we further name it distortion. Distortion. لا يؤمن أحدكم. None of you shall believe. الإيمان في اللغة, linguistically, the word iman means الإقرار المستلزم للقبول والإذعان. It is the admission that brings about acceptance and submission. وهو مطابق للمعنى الشرعي, and it is consistent with the legislative meaning. وقيل هو التصديق, and it was said it is just to acknowledge. وفيه نظر, but that is problematic, and there's some criticism regarding that. It's questionable. There you go, questionable. لأنه يقال, because you say آمنت بكذا وصدقت فلانا, because I believe in such and such, but I acknowledge that person's statement. ولا يقال آمنت فلانا. You don't say I believe that person. Of course, in English you do, in Arabic you don't. وقيل الإيمان في اللغة الإقرار, and it was said that linguistically iman means to acknowledge, to attest, to confess. واستدل القائل ذلك أنه يقال آمن به وأقر به, and the person with that opinion uses an evidence that you say I believe in him and I acknowledge him. ولا يقال آمنه بمعنى صدق, and he doesn't say I believe him, i.e. I take his word for as truth. فلما لم يتوافق الفعلان في التعدي واللزوم علم أنهما ليس بمعنى واحد. When those two verbs do not agree in terms of the outcome, and what they necessitate, then we learn that they are not one and the same in terms of meaning. فالإيمان في اللغة إذن, so again to reiterate, إيمان linguistically is إقرار القلب بما يرد عليه المستلزم للقبول والإذعان وليس مجرد التصديق. It is the acknowledgement of the heart with whatever comes to it, which brings about, which necessitates acceptance and submission, and it is not merely to just acknowledge or accept information. لكن قد يرد الإيمان بمعنى التصديق بقرينة مثل قوله تعالى فآمن له لوط. But it could be that the word iman means to just acknowledge or accept information if there's an association with that, such as the statement فآمن له لوط, so Lut believed in him. على أحد القولين, مع أنه يمكن أن يقال فآمن له لوط أي انقاد له وصدق دعوته. It could also be according to one of the two interpretations, because it could also be explained that what is intended by آمن له لوط, i.e. he انقاد له, he complied with him, and he believed in his da'wah, in his basically call. أما الإيمان في الشرع فهو كما سبق في تعريفه في اللغة. As for the legislative meaning of iman, it is equal to what we've explained linguistically. فمن أقر بدون قبول وإذعان فليس بمؤمن. Whoever acknowledges without acceptance and submission, then he is not a believer. وعلى هذا فاليهود والنصارى اليوم ليسوا بمؤمنين. Accordingly, Jews and the Christians today are not believers لأنهم لم يقبلوا دين الإسلام ولم يذعنوا, because they neither accepted the religion of Islam nor did they submit. فمن أقر بدون قبول وإذعان فليس بمؤمن. وأبو طالب كان مقرا بنبوة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ويعلن ذلك ويقول لقد علموا أن ابننا لا مكذب لدينا ولا يعنى بقول الأباطل. Abu Talib used to acknowledge the prophethood of the Prophet ﷺ, and he used to proclaim that, so much so that he said, and they have known that our son is not a liar according to us, nor is he concerned with the false statements. ويقول, and he used to say, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ بِأَنَّ دِينَ مُحَمَّدٍ مِنْ خَيْرِ أَدْيَانِ الْبَرِّيَّةِ دِينًا. And I have known that the religion of Muhammad is from among the best religions for mankind. لولا الملامة أو حذار مسبة لرأيتني سمحا بذاك مبينا. Subhanallah. Had it not been for the blame I would receive, or out of fear of being verbally abused, you would have seen me basically accepting that religion and proclaiming that to the people. And that's why Abu Talib refused Islam all the way until his deathbed. He refused to accept Islam because he was afraid, or he was worried about the criticism he would get from Quraysh. وهذا إقرار واضح. This is a clear proclamation. ودفاع عن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم ومع ذلك ليس بمؤمن. And it's also a defense of the Prophet ﷺ, yet he's not a believer. لفقده القبول والانقياد, because it lacks acceptance and submission. فلم يقبل الدعوة ولم ينقد لها. So he didn't accept the invitation or the call, nor was he complying to it. فمات على الكفر والعياذ بالله. So he died upon disbelief, and we seek refuge with Allah. ومحل الإيمان. Now where does Iman reside? In three places. القلب واللسان والجوارح. Faith resides in the heart, on the tongue, and in the limbs. فالإيمان يكون بالقلب. So Iman is first in the heart. ويكون باللسان. It's also in the tongue. ويكون بالجوارح, and it also manifests on the limbs. Basically, it's a manifestation of Iman. أي أن قول الإنسان يسمى إيمانا. The statement of قول اللسان, the statement of the tongue, is called Iman. وعمل الجوارح يسمى إيمانا, and the actions of the limbs is also called Iman. What's the evidence for that, my brothers and sisters in Islam? والدليل قول الله عز وجل وما كان الله ليضيع إيمانكم. And Allah was never to waste your Iman. قال المفسرون, the exegesis experts said, إيمانكم, what is intended by إيمانكم, أي صلاتكم إلى بيت المقدس, your salah towards Al-Bayt Al-Maqdis, which is before the Qibla, the first Qibla of the Muslims, before the Kaaba was became the second Qibla and the final Qibla for the Muslims. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, الإيمان بضع وسبعون شعبة. Iman is 70 and some branches. فأعلاها, the highest of Iman, قول لا إله إلا الله. The highest of Iman is the statement, you saying قول لا إله إلا الله. وأدناها, and the least of Iman, إماطة الأذى عن الطريق, is removing harm from people's way. وَالْحَيَاءُ شُعْبَةٌ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ, and modesty and shyness is a branch of Iman. This hadith, Allahu Akbar, this hadith brings back some memories. This hadith brings back some memories from like 15, 20 years ago. I think this is among the first ahadith I learned as a Muslim. Among the first ahadith I learned as a Muslim, and that's why, my brothers and sisters, the foundations are very important. What you're founded upon is very important. Because there are so many Muslims out there that have a confused belief regarding the matter of Iman. And this hadith, it puts all of that to rest. If you want proof that Iman is not merely the belief in the heart, that it has to be also statements of the tongue and actions of the limbs, look at this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ himself saying Iman is 70 some branches. The highest form of Iman is what you say with your tongue, and removing harm from people's way is also part of Iman. That's actions of the limbs. And modesty, which also materializes in behavior, is a branch of Iman. That's evidence also that Iman increases and decreases. Now, how many of y'all actually do the imatatul adha an al-tariq? How many of you guys actually remove harm of people's way? I'll give you a piece of advice. Make it a point whenever you are walking around, depending on the country, of course, if you ever find on the ground a banana peel or a screw or a nail or a rock, pull over if you're in your car, or if you're walking on your feet, make it a point to remove it out of people's way. Because we have other ahadith that a person will enter Jannah. A person will enter Jannah because of a harm that he moved from people's way. You see how beautiful that is? Just like we have the hadith of a woman, a prostitute, who entered Jannah because she gave water to a thirsty dog. And we have a hadith of a woman who used to pray and fast, but she used to harm her neighbors, and she wound up in the fire. And we have the hadith of a woman who had a cat whom she neither fed nor allowed it to eat from hashashul ard, from whatever rizq Allah has written for it in out there in the streets. And she entered Jahannam because of oppressing a cat. So that's a lot to reflect on. That is a dosage of reflection for you. What do they call it? Food for thought. For you to think about of how this works, subhanallah. So never, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. قال alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet said, do not belittle any good deed. وَلَوْ أَن تَلْقَى أَخَاكَ بِوَجْهٍ طَلِقٍ. Even if it was just to look at your brother, face your brother with a smiley face, with a smile on your face. Don't belittle any good deed. Please have mercy on yourself. and make it a point to remove harm from people's way. That nail, that screw that is left on the ground might puncture someone's tire, and because of that they might get into an accident and die, or they might be delayed to their job and lose their job. Allahu alam, what kind of calamity could be written for someone that Allah Azza wa Jal saves them from that because of you removing that nail out of people's way, and therefore all this ajr will be in your book of deeds. You don't know, you won't know. But trust that Allah Azza wa Jal sees you when you go down on the ground, even if you get a little bit dirty or dusty, and you remove this object from people's way. Rest assured, Allah Azza wa Jal sees you and knows your intention. And always hope for the best from Allah. Let alone being among those who not only not remove harm from people's way, but put harm in people's way. People that double park, those are criminals. People that double park, wherein you want to leave and you can't leave because some funny person thinks that he's entitled to block you, and you have to, call them. They put their phone number on the, the whatever you have to call them, and then you have to wait 5 minutes for him to come down from his, the 30th floor to move his car. By then, you're already late to your appointment. People that block people's way, throw trash in the streets, and all that. All this is not from Islam. In Western countries, these are enforced by law. As a Muslim, you don't need the law to enforce it upon you. You enforce it upon yourself. The Shaykh said, "Alaha qawlu la ilaha illallah, hada qawlu lisan." The highest of which is saying la ilaha illallah, and that is the statement of the tongue. وَأَدْنَاهَا, the least of which, إِمَاطَةُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ وَهَذَا فِعْلُ الْجَوَارِحِ. As for the least of it, which is removing harm from people's way, this is the actions of the limbs. وَالْحَيَاءُ عَمَلُ الْقَلْبِ, and modesty and shyness is the action of the heart. وَأَمَّا الْقَوْلُ بِأَنَّ الْإِيمَانَ مَحَلَّهُ الْقَلْبِ فَقَط. As for the statement that Iman resides in the heart strictly and only and exclusively, وَأَنَّ مَنْ أَقَرَّ فَقَدْ آمَنَ غَلَطْ وَلَا يَصِحْ. And that whoever merely acknowledges that he has believed, then this is wrong and it is not correct. وَقَوْلُهُ حَتَّى يُحِبَّ حَتَّى هَذِهِ لِلْغَايَةِ. As for the until he loves, hatta, until is until, basically it denotes destination or arriving at a particular point. يعني إلى أن يحب لأخي, meaning up until he loves for his brother. والمحبة لا تحتاج إلى تفسير. The Shaykh said, mahabba does not need explanation. ولا يزيد تفسيرها إلا إشكالا وخفاء. فالمحبة هي المحبة لا تفسر بأبين من لفظها. And trying to explain it is only going to make it more complicated and more secretive. Love is love, and nothing explains it better than the word itself. All right, it's one of those universal languages that everybody pretty much understands. وقوله لأخيه أي المؤمن ما يحب لنفسه من خير ودفع الشر ودفاع عن العرض وغير ذلك. So as for the statement loves for his brother, meaning the believer, what he loves for himself of goodness, of removal of evil, protecting one's honor, and other than that, meaning that which you love for yourself, you love for others. وفي الحديث الصحيح عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال: من أحب أن يزحزح عن النار ويدخل الجنة فلتأته منيته وهو يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وَلْيَأْتِ إِلَى النَّاسِ مَا يُحِبُّ أَنْ يُؤْتَى إِلَيْهِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever wishes, whoever loves to be removed away from the fire and admitted to paradise, then let death comes to him while he's a believer in Allah and the last day, and let him give people what he wants them to give him. Let him deal with people the way he wants them to deal with him. الشاهد هنا قوله, the point of emphasis here is the statement وَلْيَأْتِ إِلَى النَّاسِ مَا يُحِبُّ أَنْ يُؤْتَى إليه. Let him deal with people the way he wants to be dealt with. And so I say this to all of those, for example, who are always fetching for brothers' personal mistakes and private mistakes, and they love to put it out in the public. Would you like to be treated the same? Let's say for whatever reason you fell into sin and you disobeyed Allah privately. Do you want the people to blast you in public and expose you? No. Therefore, don't do that to others. This is not the same as someone making a false statement about Islam and us refuting them. That is a completely different. The people conflate these two different scenarios. There's a scenario where a caller to Islam, makes a false statement about Islam, and then you go and refute that person. They tell you, hey, why did you refute him? Why are you exposing the brother's sins? Habibi, I'm not exposing his sins. His sin is out there per se, i.e. he shared it with the people. I am refuting the false statement. There's nothing that I dug up from hidden sources and I put out to the people. Whereas his private sin regarding his personal life, that's not the same. If you put it out to the people and then you make a big fuss out of it, that's not the same. You understand? So make that distinction, because a lot of people fall into a major transgression against the du'at, presuming that they are angels. The du'at are not angels. They're men and women like you, and they have their own weaknesses like you do. And, Allah al-Musta'an. Now, من فوائد هذا الحديث, from the benefits of this particular hadith, we have number one, جواز نفي الشيء لانتفاء كماله. It's the permissibility of negating something when its perfect state is negated or is absent. قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا صلاة بحضرة طعام. Oh no, I'm sorry. How did I get that? ولقوله, because of the statement لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. ومثل قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يؤمن من لا يأمن جاره بوائقه. This is similar to the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. He does not believe the one whose neighbor does not feel secure from his transgression. Meaning not that he becomes a kafir, it means that he doesn't have the perfect iman. ومن الأمثلة على نفي الشيء لانتفاء كماله, and another example of the negation of something, the allowance or the permissibility of negating something because of the negation of its perfection, is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, لا صلاة بحضرة طعام. There's no salah in the presence of food. أي لا صلاة كاملة, meaning there's no proper perfect salah. لأن هذا المصلي سوف يشتغل قلبه بالطعام الذي حضر. والأمثلة هذا كثير, because that person engaging in salah, his heart is going to be occupied with the food that has been presented, and there are many examples of that. And I'm sure many of you, I hope many of you know the ruling that if the food has been presented and you're hungry and the people are praying, you are supposed to sit down and eat and not go join the salah, lest you pray while thinking about food. Number two, وجوب محبة المرء لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. The obligation for a person to love for his brother what he loves for himself. لأن نفي الإيمان عما لا يجب لأخيه عما لا يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه يدل على وجوب ذلك. Because the negation of iman from the one who doesn't love for his brother what he loves for himself actually indicates the obligation of that. إذ لا ينفى الإيمان إلا لفوات واجب فيه أو وجود ما ينافيه. Because there is no negation of iman except for the absence of that which is obligatory concerning it, or the presence of that which negates it. Number three, التحذير من الحسد, warning against envy. لأن الحاسد لا يحب لأخيه ما يحب نفسه, because the envious person never loves for his brother what he loves for himself. بل يتمنى زوال نعمة الله عن أخيه المسلم. Rather, he also wishes that the bounty that Allah has blessed his brother with is removed from him. أعوذ بالله. وقد اختلف أهل العلم في تفسير الحسد. The people of knowledge have differed in interpreting envy. فقال بعضهم, some of them said, تمني زوال النعمة عن الغير. It is the hope and wish that the bounty of Allah is removed from others. وقال بعضهم, some of them said, الحسد هو كراهة ما أنعم الله به على غيره. It is to hate what Allah has bestowed upon others. وهذا اختيار شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية. This is the choice of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah رحمه الله. يقول إذا كره العبد ما أنعم الله به على غيره فقد حسده. If a slave hates what Allah has bestowed upon another slave, then he has envied him. وإن لم يتمنى الزوال, even if he doesn't wish for the removal of that ni'mah, the mere hating that someone else has something, you have envied him. And how many of us walk around like this and behave like this, envying other Muslims as opposed to making dua for them? Yani, you see someone with a nice car, huh? You say to yourself, man, why does this punk has a car like this? This worthless lowlife doesn't deserve a car like this. You're an envious person. A proper believer will say, Barakallahu lak. Barakallahu lak. May Allah bless it for you. Allah knows who He gives and to whom He gives. It's none of your business. If Allah gave it to him, then that's what Allah gave to him. Why are you hating? Why are you hating on what Allah gave him? You want one like it? Huh? Work. Make dua. If Allah has it written for you, it will come. It could be a source of destruction. Number 4, أنه ينبغي صياغة الكلام بما يحمل على العمل به. That you should articulate speech in a way that will make people act upon it. لأن هذا من الفصاحة, because this is a type of eloquence. والشاهد لهذا قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The evidence for that is the statement of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام لأخيه, to his brother. لأن هذا يقتضي العطف والحنان والرقة, because this necessitates, this entails gentleness, kindness, and softness. ونظير هذا قول الله عز وجل في آية القصاص. Similar to that is the statement of Allah عز وجل in Surah Al-Qasas. فمن عفي له من أخيه شيء. Whoever's been forgiven by his brother regarding anything, مع أنه قاتل, even though his brother is the killer in this context. تحنينا وتعطيفا لهذا المخاطب, in order to soften the heart of the one who's being addressed, meaning yes, he killed someone, but he's still your brother in faith. فإن قال قائل هذه المسألة قد تكون صعبة. If someone would say this is difficult, أي لا تحب لأخيك ما تحب لنفسك, أي أن تحب لأخيك ما تحب لنفسك. It's difficult to love for your brother what you love for yourself. بمعنى أن تحب لأخيك أن يكون عالما وأن يكون غنيا وأن يكون ذا مال وبنين وأن يكون مستقيما, فقد يصعب هذا. Meaning you love for your brother to be a scholar and to be rich and to have wealth and children and to be upright. This is difficult. فنقول هذا لا يصعب إذا مرنت نفسك عليه. This is not difficult if you train yourself upon it. مرن نفسك على هذا يسهل عليك. Train yourself to accept that, to be like that. It will become easy for you. أما أن تطيع نفسك في هواها فنعم سيكون هذا صعبا. As for if you were to follow your desires in terms of what your soul tells you, then yes, it will become difficult upon you. فإذا قال تلميذ من التلاميذ. So if a student were to say هل يدخل في ذلك أن ألقن زميلي في الاختبار لأني أحب أن أنجح فألقنه لينجح. So if a student were to say, is included in that I helped my classmate cheat in the exam because I love for him to pass, like I love for myself to pass, so I help him cheat in order for him to pass. فالجواب لا. The answer is no. لأن هذا غش. This is cheating. وهو في الحقيقة إساءة لأخيك, and it is in reality a form of harming your brother. وليس إحسانا إليه. It is not a type of goodness towards him. لأنك إذا عودته الخيانة اعتاد عليه, because if you teach him and you make treachery appeal to him, then you're actually helping him become treacherous. ولأنك تخدعه بذلك, and because you're tricking him in this regard. بحيث يحمل شهادة ليس أهلا لها, because he's going to carry a degree that he's not worthy of, he's not entitled to. والله الموفق, and Allah Azza wa Jal is the source of success. And that is quite amazing that we stop exactly at 2:13, just a couple of minutes at the end of the class with the completion of Hadith number 13. Insha'Allah ta'ala, next week we'll be doing the 14th Hadith of Al-Arba'een An-Nawawiyyah. قول أيوة وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Will martyred children in Gaza be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the barzakh? I don't know of any evidence. I personally don't know of any evidence that suggests that martyred children will be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the barzakh. There might be a hadith that I am unaware of. If there is and it's sahih, please educate me on the matter. Wa alaikum assalam. Regarding Al-Adha في الطريق, what? A lot of kids make goalposts with bricks. I sometimes almost trip on them, but I don't, alhamdulillah. But someone else might. Should I remove them forcefully? So kids are playing football in the street. They have these rocks as their goalposts. You want the bricks, actually. You want to remove them. Well, it depends. If they are actually in people's harm and others might trip with them, then yes, remove them and advise these kids. Tell them, look, this is not the place to play football. You want to play football? Go play in a soccer field, or soccer pitch, and or find a place where you're not in people's harm and not people's way. Afwan. Naam. I saw a Twitter post of some Sufi Shaykh saying Rasulullah ﷺ is alive in his blessed grave, watching and knowing the affairs of each individual within his ummah. This is shirk and has no basis, right? Correct. That's why they say he's hadir nadir. He's present and observing. Basically, they equate the Prophet ﷺ with Allah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Is it permissible for a woman to post herself online or in a profile photo if it's the back of her and she's wearing a bag over her jilbab that shows the shape of her shoulders? No, it's not permissible for it is not permissible for a woman to post anything whatsoever. Anything that has her, inshallah, she's covered with 1,000,000 garments. It is not allowed for a woman to post pictures of herself in her profile photo or elsewhere. It is not allowed. A man in his nature will inspect. A man in his nature, either he fears Allah to the point that he lowers his gaze, says Allah khair. Those, 1% of the Muslim ummah, we should give them a trophy and we should give them a crown and put on their head. And every time we see them, we should spread out the red carpet and give them free food, because those 1% are absolutely amazing. The rest of the 99% that will not lower their gaze, they're going to check out the sister. Even if they see the tip of her pinky, they're going to zoom in to see, I wonder what color is the tip of her pinky. Is she fat? Is she skinny? Is she fair skin, dark skin? This is how it is. So no, sister, no, you can't be putting nothing for yourself out there for the people to see. Come on now. Wa alaikum salam. Yes, I met Abu Taymiyyah, and I did not fulfill the objective from the meeting because I wasn't prepared to address the points of contention. I did not have them compiled yet. So it remains to be TBD until further notice, inshallah. Walaikum salam. I need your advice. All right. I'm following Sunnah as best as I can and I will get married next week. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. But my mother really wants Moroccan music together with the duf. Is it separate? It is separate, of course. Well, there's nothing wrong with the duf. If it's only duf and Moroccan music, go ahead. If it's the women's section, again, this watch can be serious. If it's the women only and it is a duf, and I don't know what you mean by music. If you mean by music equals duf, or you mean music along with the duf, if there are other instruments, it's haram. Can you please turn it off? If it's only the duf and singing, it's permissible. These are the two exceptions to the rule. During Eid and during a wedding, women may beat the duf and they may sing. Wa alaikum salam. If we see a Muslim on a bus, etc., but don't say salam because of a social anxiety, is it okay to replace that with another good deed like adhkar with more reward? Is it permissible to say returns to men? All right, first of all, giving the salam is not obligatory. It's recommended. Returning the salam is obligatory. So if you don't give the salam, especially if you're a sister, don't give a salam to a man. If you're a sister, do not give the salam to a man in the first place. Tamam? First of all. Second of all, if it's another woman, it's a female to female or male to male, giving the salam is not obligatory. It's recommended. Once the salam is given, it's obligatory to return the salam. So in your case, either way, you're good to go. Don't give the salam. Now, if the Jum'ah khutbahs and the actual salah are done in different places, is this okay? Or is it from the shurut that they must be done in the same place? What do you mean in different places? I'm not sure, wallah. I don't know. That's a very technical fiqh question. I don't know the ruling. Am I still sinful for being envious if I immediately pray for the forgiveness and ask Allah to increase them? I mean, you're still envious, right? It's good that you're trying to make up for it, but try to remove that. Try to remove that from your heart. Now, how to respond to someone who says today's Muslim rulers are not considered as wali amr, since they are not khalifa, and thus speaking bad about them isn't necessarily bad, because the Prophet ﷺ told us that there will be an era of khilafah and an era of kingship. So we are living during the time that Prophet ﷺ already predicted and already prophesied that this is the time of kingship. And Prophet ﷺ did not deny the authority of their kingship. So whoever said that is ignorant of Islam and ignorant of the Hadith and ignorant of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And no, they are Waliul Amr, and you are not supposed to criticize them. You're not supposed to criticize them. It is not ironic that you're called an insider and then you say free Palestine. Watch the clip titled Free Palestine, ya Hajj Insider. Why don't you become a reciter instead of being an insider? Is it not loving for our Muslim brothers and sisters what we love for ourselves if we want to get the highest score in class? What? I don't know, man. Next. If a mother has a daughter who's 14 and 20 daughters, why is it an apostrophe S if it's two daughters? Should be S apostrophe. Ala kulli hal. If actually you don't even need the apostrophe after S. If a mother has two daughters who is 14 and 20, unless she's one daughter, she's two ages, which is amazing, and they don't wear the jilbab, should she force it upon them to wear it immediately? Because Ustad, the mother wants it to come from them to wear it, maybe gradually. She thinks it takes steps to cover more, so maybe that's why she's not forcing upon them. I don't believe in this. Wait for them to to reach that point. The 20-year-old is obviously of age, so if she's reached puberty. The 14-year-old, she could have reached puberty. She could have not reached puberty. She doesn't have to officially wear the hijab and jilbab until she reaches puberty. Assuming that she has, yes, they should be forced, and it should be imposed on them to wear the proper Islamic clothing. As for waiting for someone to feel inspired after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, sometimes never. Sometimes they never reach that point. Her whole life she doesn't wear jilbab, and every time we speak about it, say, wait, we're waiting for her to be ready. She's only waiting for her to be ready. When the angel of death comes to take her soul, she's going to say, give me a second. Really? She's going to say, give me a second to put on the jilbab? Come on now. That's not how it works. It's coming from here. Can we talk and be after? Can we talk in BW? In between, after we start making dua by praising Allah and sending Salam Prophet, or should we start over again if we talk by mistake? What? Can we talk in between after we start making dua? I don't understand, yo. I'm sorry. Salam, Ustad, wa alaikum salam. Pedro, I have a lot of deviants defending when they slip and say Shaykh Abdul Wahab, because we also call Imam Ahmad Muhammad Madhab Hanbali and not Ahmadi. How to respond? What? When they say Shaykh Abdul Wahab, because we also call Imam Ahmad Hanbal's Madhab Hanbali and not Ahmadi. How to respond? Meaning that's why they call him Wahhabi and not again, Pedro, I'm sorry, you lost me there, bro. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. Maybe I'm super slow today, guys. Forgive me. I don't understand the question. A brother on YouTube advised Muslim men to abstain marrying revert sisters. Oppa! Because they don't know what they're signing up for. She might have a wild past, and that's disturbing. Is this Islamic advice? Islamic? That's a satanic advice. A'udhu billah. A'udhu billah min ghadabillah. What do the no, I want to understand. So what do revert sisters do? They live in celibacy their whole life? Allahu Akbar. Whoever this person is should be warned against publicly. Wallahi, this advice is worth a bag of trash to advise Muslims against marrying revert sisters who need men as much, if not more, than born Muslim sisters. They need someone to help them complete their religion. They need someone to help them overcome some of the family challenges that they face. They need someone to teach them Islam. Allahu Akbar. You're going to deprive all of these women because she might have a wild past? So there are many Muslim women who were born Muslim that have a wild past as well. What is that supposed to mean? That's absolute nonsense. Plus, we're not concerned with the wild past. The only people who think like this is Daniel Haqiqachu and his likes. It's those sick, psycho, disturbed individuals that want to go to a family and say, we want to do a hymen test for your daughter to make sure that she hasn't been sleeping around. Or the ones who say, they call, if a brother had, was doing drugs in the past, they call him out for his past today. That's why Daniel will go on and say about Shamsi, ex-crackhead, about me, a failed rapper, about Faris Al-Hammadi, crossfitter, about our brother James. He has names and he calls out people's past. He calls out people's past, even though they've repented from it and they put it behind. This is the mentality of these wicked individuals that Allah will hold them accountable for. Don't follow these footsteps. A'udhu billah. Hey, I know fiqh isn't your strong point, but I need to know, is it halal to eat turtles? What? Why would you eat a turtle? I don't know. I don't know what drop shipping is. Somebody sent me a question on that also via ask a sheikh or call a sheikh. I don't understand it fully. It's like about you being a reseller. Is that what it is? Like Alibaba and Amazon stuff, where you become a reseller and you sell at a high price. Anyways, I don't know enough about it. Anyways, Faris Al-Hammadi? Yeah. Sheikh Faris has answered that question. Please refer to him. Do we still have Sharh and Ta'deel today? Absolutely, we have Sharh and Ta'deel today. Obviously, it's a different manifestation of Sharh and Ta'deel, i.e., you're not doing the Sharh of the chain of narrators and the Ta'deel of the chain of narrators. It's not the same. It's not the same. But in terms of calling people out for their deviance and warning against deviance and refuting them, then yes, that's considered a form of Sharh and Ta'deel. And it is valid until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ustad, why is Iman asked before Ihsan in the second hadith of 40 Nawawi? Doesn't having Iman come before actions? But Ihsan is not understood to be actions. Ihsan is understood to be to worship Allah as though you can see Him, and if you cannot see Him, then know that He sees you. So the meaning of Ihsan in this context is different, and therefore Iman comes first. Naam. Is it permissible for a husband and wife to dance together without music in the comfort of their room? Yeah. As long as, if the wife dances for him, yes. The husband, I don't know what kind of dance he's going to be doing, but there's room for that, but you have to be very careful. That's all I'm going to say. Adi. Do you know if beef and enzymes go through the process of istihala? Beef enzymes? Isn't it istihlal? Istihala or istihala? I don't know. No, I don't know about beef enzymes. in terms of belief, the 6 pillars and then performing the 5 pillars of Islam. La ya akhi, it's first Islam, then Iman, and then Ihsan. That's the order of them. How can one use super chat? I don't know. I'm not a super chat promoter. I would not want to take your money for you to ask me a question in a live free class. If you wanted like a personalized counseling session, yes, we do have a service where people can book me for a counseling service wherein I dedicate my time to discuss whatever issue you're facing. Yeah, there's a platform that I'm involved in that does that. But as for super chat and something like this, I don't believe we're in need of that, inshallah. Is it okay for a person who has gas incontinence to touch the mushaf? Yes, provided that he has wudu at that point. If he doesn't have wudu at that moment, then he could use his phone. Why don't you just use his phone and get over the issue? Everybody's using their phone now, using the mushaf on their phone. Just use that as well. I meant to say Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay. Yalla, we're done. Should we try to unite the Muslims when the Prophet said this ummah will divide and it's halal to protest against tyrant female Muslim ruler? So that ruler is known to be more lenient towards Muslims? I don't understand. Regarding yesterday's question about the Prophet's descendant doesn't take zakat, does that include pension money, etc.? As far as I know, any type of sadaqah, they're not entitled to it. So I don't know how pension money will differ from that. It's a technical question. Technical questions should be asked to Shaykh Abdul Aziz Al-Haqqan. Anyone with a technical question of this nature, please refer to Shaykh Abdul Aziz Al-Haqqan. Ask me general questions about da'wah, general questions about aqeedah, general questions about tawheed, general questions about how to advise other Muslims, things that are practical. Don't ask me technical questions of fiqh nature or technical questions of transactions or technical questions of that nature, because that's not my field of expertise, and I've never claimed to have that as my field of expertise. So I like to stick to my lane and also make life easy for me by asking me questions that I can actually answer successfully and efficiently and not have to tell you as someone else. We're done. Yo. If one breaks wudu whilst holding the mushaf, is it sinful to continue holding it? Yes, it is. What if you're traveling? Yeah, you need to use a cloth. If you lose your wudu, you can no longer hold the mushaf directly, then use a cloth to hold the mushaf, and that will do the job. If the khatib during the Jum'ah khutbah speaks something which isn't from the khutbah, for example, asking brothers at the back of the masjid to make space, does this invalidate the khutbah or haram? No, it's not. The Prophet ﷺ did that. The Prophet ﷺ did that very thing. A man entered and he sat down. Prophet ﷺ asked him if he prayed. He said no. He said, get up and pray. Another man came and was walking over people's shoulders. The Prophet ﷺ scolded him and told him to sit down, that he had harmed the people. No, the khatib is able to do that. If a person suffers from hearing loss and can't hear the imam reciting and can't hear when they say Ameen, what should they do? Do they leave off saying Ameen out loud? No, they still say Ameen according to the estimation. According to the estimation, if he complete loss of hearing, they don't hear anything or they barely hear. I don't know. If a person is completely deaf, then they will not know when he finished the Fatiha. Then obviously they cannot say just Ameen abruptly in the middle of the Salah while the Imam is still possibly reciting Fatiha. You understand? But I would say if they see the people go into takbir, let's say it's in the third or fourth rak'ah, that's an indication that the Imam already completed the Fatiha, then they can quickly say Ameen to themselves and then go to ruku' in order to fulfill the Ameen. But that's because of necessity. That person cannot hear. Wallahu a'lam. On that point of wedding duf, what about a cappella or edits with the duf instead of the original instruments? Is this permissible? What do you mean by edits? A cappella, okay, a cappella is no music, so it's no problem. Yeah, but then they do that cappella and put dufs on it. No, I don't know. I would not know. That's advanced. Why do we have to do all this? Just keep it simple, y'all. Why does the wedding have to be such a big drama? Anyways, everybody's there to eat and drink, and the husband and wife are there to finish the wedding quickly and go home. No, that's what it is, man. If everybody had a simplistic approach to life, then life would be so beautiful. All this money wasted on clothes and wedding garments, inviting half of the ummah and half of the people in the street, and spending thousands of dollars on food that goes to waste. And we want to make a big fuss, and then what? And then the husband and wife waiting 3, 4, 5 hours for the people still sitting there talking. People still sitting there talking and yapping, and they're like, yo, you guys are going to go home or what? You know, it's almost Fajr. It's almost Fajr. And we got some work to do before Fajr, lest we start our wedding, our marriage with a missed Salah. You know, that's how beautiful it was back then. Now we have all these restrictions and all these, exaggerations and all this madri ايش ويلا وتعالوا طق وطيق وبنج. خلاص يا عمي، خلاص يا عمي، خلاص بسرعة eat some chicken and rice، يلا روح بيت أبوك أمشي. Anyways, don't take such advice from me. I'm a little extreme in terms of my, you know what I'm saying? I have an oversimplified approach to things. I understand that it doesn't sit well with many and it's hard to digest. Then again, my family, for example, haven't seen each other in years, so it's be nice for family to come. Yeah, let them come together. I'm not saying don't come together, but you know, you could do it the next day. Yalla. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. That's good. Invite me to that one.